Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. How you doing, Lynda?
I'm doing okay. I was feeling a little bit poorly last night because yesterday my husband had a book signing over at Chapters.
Nice.
Yeah, it was all exciting, but
Do you want to pump his book? Do you want to show us? You want to talk about it?
I could go and grab one. What do you think? Should I do that?
Yeah, do that for
Let's do
sure.
that. All right, let me go
I
grab
would
a
say
book.
so.
I love it. Where else can you do this, right? Okay, so here's his book, Adventures in 12/8 Time.
Nice.
Of course, my husband, Raphael Quirino. It's all about progressive rock, and it's like massively huge and lots and lots and lots of information. So it's like an encyclopedia on progressive rock and roll. But
Wow.
let me tell you, when there's a lot of those mothers in a box, because this thing weighs a ton, honestly, I grabbed a box and I guess I wasn't holding it properly. So last night,
Oh
practically
no.
my entire left side was really sore. I could hardly lift my left arm. I'm better today, but oh man, I don't know. I just did a number on myself. I'm not used to this, Kathy, but I'm all right. Aside from that, I think everything's okay. We're starting to ramp up. We've actually got quite a few people reaching out to us about phenomena happening. So I don't know, maybe
Okay.
it's spring in the air or something, but yeah, it's ramping up, which is good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So well, besides readings, I think you guys know I do a lot of resin art and stuff like that. So I've got some shows coming up, which I'm really excited about, a couple of markets, and I keep doing the creating and all of that fun stuff. So you know what I mean? It's my getaway, that's where I go to get away. And I go in my basement and I'm like, just doing my art, doing my stuff, and
I do. Well, you're really talented. Honestly, you
oh, well,
posted
thank you.
it's
Thanks.
true. You posted a video, I think it was just earlier today. And it's phenomenal what you can do. I mean, that's talent, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And anybody that wants to see my stuff, go follow me on TikTok at Oracle Intuitions on TikTok. I post all my stuff there, or Oracle or Instagram, whatever. It doesn't
Lovely.
matter.
Lovely.
But
Yeah, do
yeah.
yourself a favor because honestly, Kathy is very talented. So
Well,
there you
thank
go.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love it. I just love doing it. And so for me, it's like a little getaway for me. And yeah, it's been a good week though. It's been a good week. It's been busy. It's been a busy good week, which I like. So
Yes.
we're talking about haunted dolls today. That's exciting. You were showing me a book before the show. Ooh.
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, this is a great book. My husband bought it for me. It's published by Llewellyn, who are fabulous publishers. They publish a
Yeah.
lot of esoterica, right? So this is the book. It's called Haunted Stuff: Demonic Dolls, Screaming Skulls, and Other, yeah, I know it, and Other Creepy Collectibles. So if you're interested, this is a really great book because not only does it have things about haunted dolls, but it's got other stuff as well. Um,
Yeah.
and it's really, I mean, it's great. The contents are easy. The book is easy to read. And they have things in here like what we're going to talk about today, things like Robert the Haunted Doll and Annabelle and stuff like that. So it's the stories behind the hauntings. And they talk about, specifics. For example, how do you know that if you brought something into your house, it's haunted? So what are some of the signs or potential signs that they might be haunted, things to watch out for, and other things in the back. So they have other reading materials that you can refer to as well. So other books in the back, which is great. A great bibliography. Lovely
Right.
book. So if you're interested, this is the one to get. Awesome.
Definitely. Definitely. So when we talk about haunted dolls, I think, I mean, obviously this goes under, the category of haunted objects in general, right? But, when it comes to a doll, it's like extra, ooh, because it's got that humanoid
Yes.
appearance to it, right?
Yes.
It's a whole different thing when you've got like, a haunted coffee cup or something than it is to a doll. And so I want to ask you, have you guys ever experienced a haunted doll on your adventures, in any of your investigations? Have you ever come across them?
We haven't actually investigated anything with a haunted doll in it,
Right.
although there are a few places that we've been to with purportedly haunted dolls. For example, the Georgina Pioneer Village, there is one room at the Noble House, which was the residence of Dr. and Mrs. Noble on the property. And one of the bedrooms upstairs was a child's bedroom. And they do have some dolls in there. Kids who visit really feel kind of creeped out when they go in that room. And some people have said that the dolls are definitely haunted in that room, although we really haven't examined that further. But I think that's one of the things that we would like to do is go in there and set up some cameras and maybe some, paraphernalia to see if we can capture something. But we have had, or I have had, a haunted teddy bear, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
doll.
It's
Yes.
kind of the same thing though, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that spirits are really attracted to, or some spirits are really attracted to um, dolls in particular, because like you said, they're humanoid, right? So they're human, and maybe they miss being human. Maybe they miss that sort of interaction with humans, and that's why they kind of possess a doll. But I don't know, a teddy bear, well, it might be kind of the same thing, because they might miss the interaction, right, between a human and a stuffed animal or something like that. But I think it's a little different with dolls. I think it's because they're humanoid that it's this big attraction. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if I was to encounter a teddy bear that was moving on its own, I don't think I would do very well with that either. But you know, the thing is, and especially for little girls, we were raised pretty much with our dollies, and this is our first interaction to motherhood or parenthood or whatever. And so having that interaction with something that would have been possessed with something else, that could do some serious mental.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it anyway.
true.
Whether it was a little boy playing with the doll or a girl playing with the doll, it doesn't matter. But I think it would have, some serious issues. Well, you know what? Actually got a video of that. So I'll show you this one. I'm sure that we've seen it before, but I'm
Okay.
going to bring it up because this I think would do a number on me for sure. That's just my thought. Hang on a second. Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Footage has been scaring the internet since 2010. The clip is short and has next to no information attached to it. People have been speculating about its origins for years. One of the first known versions was uploaded to a YouTube channel called Eduardo Anguiano. However, it's hard to tell whether they filmed it or found it somewhere else. The clip shows a young girl holding a doll. The camera holder and the girl talk among themselves when suddenly the doll's head turns by itself. The camera holder warns the girl that the doll moved. When the girl in shot realizes what happened, she screams and throws the doll to the ground. As we mentioned, the footage has been analysed for years, yet no one knows its true origin. Could this be a glimpse at a genuine haunted doll?
So with that video, when I watched that video, I think for me personally, you know, we watch a lot of videos. We watch a lot of, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
And hi Tara. Thank you for joining us. um, you know, we watch a lot of things, and that, you know, and so you get to know expressions on people, right? And especially with all of the interviews that we do, and all of the, you know, just talking in regards to, I mean, people don't quite realize, I think, as a paranormal investigator, how much yippity yapping with other people that you actually do. Like, it's not like we're just going in and setting up our cameras and, you know, doing that. Like, there's a lot of work before you even take that step, you know, towards pulling out your equipment, right? You know, there's interviews with everybody, or there should be a lot of communication. Let's just say that, because not every team does that. Some teams just bring in a Ouija board and do the hokey pokey and claim that you're haunted. So whatever. But you know, but
It's true.
yeah, right. And but you know, there's a lot of communication, and so we get to know a lot of like expressions, behaviors, all of it. Like, for instance, just as an example, one of the things that we used to do, especially with children, because children would claim that they were haunted or something haunted was happening. And it's not that you're doubting the children or anything like that, but here's the thing, is that children feed off of, first of all, the adults in the home, but second of all, if something has created a response from the adults in the house, they're going to continue that behavior. So let's say maybe they did encounter something one time and the parents had a particular reaction to it. Well, the children are going to try to recreate that behavior, right? And so, or recreate that reaction. And so one of the things that we used to do, you know, as investigators, is when we talk to children, we would ask them several times what happened, and you would just do it casually. Yeah, that door was red. No, it was blue. Okay, so now they're if they're maintaining a like a continuity, I guess. Am I using that right word? But
Yes.
you know, like, as long as it's maintaining a particular continuity, we can put some faith into it, right? But you know, sometimes you're talking to them, and if they forget, if they're like a kid, you know, when kids are lying, it's hard for them to, and adults too, quite honestly, right? But you know, when you're lying, it's hard to create that same story over and over and over and over again. So we'll ask them throughout, you know, maybe we're doing a tour of the house or talking to them or whatever, and we'll ask them several times. Oh yeah, what time was it again? Or how did this happen? What were they wearing? What did you do? Like, you know, just, I forgot. Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll see that. So this, when the point that I'm making is, when you watch this video and you see her expression, for me, that's not a fake expression.
No, that's totally genuine.
That's how I felt too. Like, that was like, she was genuinely scared looking at that. That's how I felt.
Absolutely. It's true. I mean, and you can tell, because you're right. I mean, she just takes that thing and chucks that thing to the floor.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would do. I don't know
But
about you.
it's so fluid in the actions too. You know, it's either, I mean, this is either a professional actress, or this is a genuine, you know, because most people cannot have that type of reaction so fluidly. It's very, very fluid. And so that's where I look at it and I go, I think I would have dropped that doll and been running down the block like just
Yeah, I would have done the same thing.
checking it as fast as I could.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because when I did Paranormal Survivor, there was one case where there was a lady who had a couple of haunted dolls and she couldn't deal with them anymore. So what she did was she put them out by the garbage can.
Oh.
And of
That was
course, yeah, of course, right? It's what normal people do, right? You just throw them out. But no, she didn't put them in a garbage bag and throw them out. She just left them there. And of course,
well, then
some,
they can just walk home.
well, you would think, right? But no, that's not what happened, because of course, some unknowing sort of, player in this story thought, oh, well, someone's throwing away two beautiful dolls, so I'll just pick them up and bring them home because I collect dolls. And of course, they did. And then all hell broke loose in their home. And they realized, okay, well, I obviously introduced something into my house. And I remember that case specifically because, when you're sitting around talking about it between takes, and there were other paranormal people there, that were waiting for their segments to, of course, be filmed, we started to talk amongst ourselves. And the first thing we all said was, okay, if I saw two dolls sitting by the garbage, no way would I ever stop and bring them home, because I would immediately think they're getting rid of them for a reason. Am I wrong?
No, well, you're not wrong. The only thing I'm wondering, how did they discover that the dolls were causing havoc in the other person's home?
Well, no, they didn't, because they pretty much just took them home and put them in their house, assuming, of course, that maybe the person in that house that got rid of them, maybe they were just tired of them, or maybe they didn't want them anymore.
So it was from the point of view of the people that picked up the dolls.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I was
Exactly.
confused. I thought it was from the point of view of the people who put it out in the garbage can. In the
Oh,
garbage.
yeah, no.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
how would you know?
Right. But then, of course, what happened ultimately is that the person took the dolls out of their home and brought them back to the place of origin and knocked on the door basically and said, listen, are these your dolls? And the person was like, yeah, I don't want those dolls. So at that point, then of course, 2 + 2 = 4. And the person went, okay, well, I get it now. But, there was really no great resolution as to kind of who they were, what spirits had actually possessed these dolls, just the fact that the dolls obviously were possessed by spirits of some kind. And it wasn't totally malevolent or anything. It was just that they were bothersome because they would giggle, they would laugh. They were placed in a cabinet, so the door would open and close of the cabinet that they were placed in. Things were going missing. They were eventually found in different places. Just that kind of, annoying stuff. That
So my view is, if you come into my house and you're going to cause all this trouble, you better get up and do some freaking laundry.
Right? Do you know where the
Or
vacuum cleaner is?
At the very least, have my coffee ready for me in the morning.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Right? Like,
Right.
if you can open a cabinet door, you can turn on a coffee maker.
Agreed.
That's my point of view on that one.
Yep. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Yep.
Yeah. Like, you don't get to come here and just make all kinds of racket and scare everybody. No. You got to contribute, man.
Agreed. Agreed.
for your room and board.
Agreed. But people do talk about dolls being haunted, but there's another aspect to the whole situation whereby the dolls themselves aren't necessarily possessed by a spirit, but that a spirit in the environment uses the dolls.
Yes.
Right, in order to communicate or get a point across to the people that live there. So they might pick them up, they might do this kind of thing at night, or they might pretend that the doll is haunted. So, there's that whole aspect too, right?
So that's where I actually had my experience, was the spirit, using the dolls as a conduit in our home. And this is actually, we've actually talked about this several times, and it's in a couple of different books. Peter Hewitt and Jason Wren's book, I Want to Believe. I can't remember the name. What is it? Paranormal? No.
Yes, I Want to Believe. Was it a Paranormal Investigators? Oh my goodness! Now I can't even.
I have the book here, and I'm not exactly sure where I placed it because I was doing some renovations, and I had it in a different area. But yeah, it's a really good book, and it's about, you know, different investigators' point of view on different things and how they got started and how things happened. And you're in the book too, right, Lynda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's really good. It's really interesting reading all of that. But that's, you know, for me, that's where things started, you know, with us, is that in my old home, you know, I won't go into the whole thing because it's long, but basically, you know, it started off with my daughter and one of her friends. We were in a bungalow. This is in the 90s. And this actually is one of the reasons why I did eventually get into paranormal investigation. But it started off with, you know, my daughter and her friend running. That kept hearing them running down the hallway, giggling. And I was like, what are you doing? And they go, Mom, this is so cool. You should watch it. And they were doing this like for quite a while. And there, you know, you'd get a couple of screams and the whole bit. And I was like, what are you doing? What is going on? And they would be like, watch this. And they had this Barbie doll that they were putting, you know, at the end of the hallway. And then they would run away. And then they would come back and the doll would be moved. Like it would be in another position. And then they'd laugh and they would think it was so funny. and so, you know, I was like, oh my God, this is probably not as funny as you guys think it is. But, you know, you're kind of like trying not to freak out. You know, you're just going, oh, wow, look at that interesting thing that's happening right now. But, you know, the thing is that we had been having things happen in the house leading up to this. So it wasn't like this was the only thing that suddenly, you know, started happening. We had, you know, various different things happen up to it. Was, they were smaller. They were smaller, little, you know, those little things that, you know, tend to happen, you know, with the, once your house is starting to become infested, I guess is the best way, right?
Yeah.
But so then I remember it was funny because I remember I went to the washroom. And so the hallway was just a long hallway. And, you know, you have the end of the hallway where the closet, I'm trying to show where the closet was. And then you've got bedroom on this side and bathroom. So I was in the bathroom, right? And across from the bathroom is just a wall. But it was, you know, the thing is that this house was built in the early 60s. And so there's creaking. Like you can, like when you walk down the hallway, there's creaking. You know when somebody's coming down the hallway, right? You know when a door is being opened. It's not like a silent brand new home, you know, that people are just like, you hear everything in this house, right? It's that. And so I was in the washroom, but I'd left the door open just like a little crack, you know what I mean? And I never saw anything walk by. I never saw but the doll had been across from me. So here's the door and here's the hallway. And the doll was sitting right here, like on the hall, like in the hallway. And anyway, got up, washed my hands, opened the door, and there's the doll right in front of the doorway. Like literally sitting there, just looking. And it's sitting there looking at me. And I was just like, the flying F. And I screamed, of course, and that scared the kids probably at that. And that's when I think that they realized like something is going on here. Like it's not fun anymore. Like I think that they knew, but you know, you need sometimes that other, you know, validation of it. And at the time we actually lived right next door to my mom and my dad. So they decided that the two girls decided to go over to my mom's house for the night. And I had my other daughter with me and she just stayed with me and we, you know, everything was fine. Didn't think anything of it. Went to work the next day and I had brought my youngest over there to my mom's and, you know, left her with, so all three girls were at my mom's house. Went to work. I came home, grabbed my youngest daughter from my mom's house and my oldest was still like, I'm staying here at grandma's for a little while longer. I'm like, okay, whatever, you do that. We walk in the house. Well, Lynda, So my daughter had a big tub of Barbie dolls. So this was like, she had my old Barbie dolls plus all the new Barbie dolls that she had gathered. This is my youngest ones. And she loved Barbie. And anyway, we walk in the house. Well, if there wasn't Barbie dolls everywhere, like this tub was pretty much emptied. And as soon as you open the door, there's a Barbie doll right in front of you on the wall. You would walk through the house. There would be Barbie dolls along, like in the hallway. There was one in between the taps in the bathroom.
Oh
There was
my
one on
God.
top of the ceiling fan in my kitchen. Like they were everywhere.
What?
And and so I called my mom and I was like, you tell those girls to get their little arses back here right now because they've got some Barbie doll cleaning to do. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, I came home and there's Barbie dolls literally scattered all over my home. And she goes, Kathy, I don't know what happened last night, but they're not, like, they did not go to the house. They're terrified to walk into that house.
Oh boy.
And so she said they've been like pretty much with me all day. And she goes, and like Michelle, my daughter, my mom says like she even wanted us to sleep in the living room because they had made little beds for them on the living room floor. And she goes, she wanted me to stay with them and sleep with them in the living room. And like, what kid wants their grandma to sleep with them on a sleepover?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that just doesn't have. So, she sent them back to the house anyway, and they came in and you could see on my daughter's face, she was just like, like in tears, like just like you could see the fear. And I mean, the whole thing escalated from there. It just became like a fucking nightmare. And, but the thing is that whatever it was using the dolls definitely as a conduit.
That's creepy. That is really creepy.
It was really creepy. Yeah.
Did you fix the situation?
We moved.
Well, that would be fixing the situation.
I literally, like, that's exactly, like, we put up with it for probably about 6 months maybe, and it got to the point where the girls were sleeping in my room. We could barely go into another room without each other. I remember my daughter, my youngest one, going down the hallway to play in her room, and she came back to the kitchen and she was pure white. She was only about 5 at the time, 5 or 6, and she was pure white. And she's like, there's a little girl bouncing on my bed.
Oh
and
my God.
She like, we pretty much, after that, it was, and I mean, there were so many things that happened, you know what I mean? But I sort of just went, there's other places to live.
Yep. That's right.
we don't need to stay here.
No.
And so funny enough, I phoned my mortgage company, right? And I got like a pre-approved and the whole bit. And as soon as they found out, actually, it was funny because when they found out what street I was on, they said, you know what? We have a guy in our office that's been trying to get onto that street for years, and he'll buy the house sight unseen. Sold.
Wow.
I was literally like, it was in one day, it was sold, and we were out within a month.
That is like luck.
That, and I always felt like we needed to I think that's what needed to happen. Like we needed to, it was like a protection. Like we got out of there lickety split. I mean, I only had a month to find another house and move and everything. But I tell you, it was so worth, and they were using it as a rental property. So it wasn't like a new family, or, you know what I mean? It wasn't somebody that was going to be purchasing it besides this guy. And it did have several owners or several renters over the years. I've never questioned. We've never asked. We've never had the opportunity to say to anybody, look at what's going on in that house. But you know what? It's sort of like Amityville. Like we don't know if maybe new owners or new people that are in the house, like you hear about Amityville and all of the nonsense that went on there. Maybe it's the same thing because new owners have lived there, or it was a farce, who knows? But new owners have been in there for years and years and years, and there's been no activity whatsoever. So it could be just the fact that we were in there.
That could be. Well, the whole story is in this book.
Yes.
I want to believe an investigator's archive. And
Yes.
there it is. I want to believe an investigator's archive. Yeah, and it's I know it's available on
It is on
Amazon.
Amazon. It is on Amazon.
Do you know what, Kathy? I will actually send you the image. So if you want to put it up, you can
Yeah,
certainly
that would be
do
great. Do that for sure.
because
And
that's a freaky, I mean, that is a really freaky story.
well, the interesting thing is, I think that was like, it was the start of, I mean, it took me a few years after that for sure, like probably another 5 years after that, but it was the start. And the thing is that at the time, there was nobody to help me. And that was the thing that really stuck out, especially when I was asked to join a paranormal team myself. And it was the fact that there was nobody out there at that time to give you any help. There was nobody there to guide you. There was I mean, I'll tell you, I looked everywhere. And I mean, at the time we had, bare internet, because this was about 2000 and let's say 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. But even like the yellow pages, whatever you could find. I mean, I Googled and searched and did everything I possibly could. And the only thing that I could find was like psychics and mediums that were charging like massive amounts of money. It wasn't like, and I probably would have paid like $100 or some, or something fairly reasonable at that time.
Yeah.
But we're talking like thousands of dollars.
That's the thing, that's why it's funny you say that, because that's usually what motivates people who are inclined to be involved in the paranormal anyway, to help other people, because it's true. I mean, especially back then, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was really nothing. And how can people be expected to deal with something that, maybe they don't understand, they don't want to
Yeah.
deal with things alone? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And, so it was my motivating factor for joining a team because, being in that position, you're being thought of as crazy. You have people that are, not believing you. You have people that are thinking you're just making up some wild story because, the fact that I had, 2 kids at the time and 3 jobs just to pay the mortgage wasn't enough on my fucking plate.
Right.
Like apparently I had to be haunted too. But this
haunted Barbie dolls.
yeah, like I had the time for that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it was, like when you look back at that, you go, wow, like there was a lot of, like, it was definitely a lot of pressure. And like I said, there was nobody could help or would help, or, when you brought it up, some people would like to, or the best part is that you're trying to, like, you're in a place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And you're explaining to somebody, what's going on. And then they're like, oh, this one time in band camp, I had this happen to me. And you're like,
no.
Like, oh, I got to listen to your story. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that this was about you.
Yeah. Right.
I guess you thought that my trauma was a sharing moment, but really it wasn't, but that's
right.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It is really scary. I mean, when you think about it, I can't even imagine going home and seeing like Barbies on a ceiling fan and Barbies in the bathroom, and that would freak me out. And I've seen pretty much a lot of stuff, and I've been freaked out a couple of times, but
Yeah.
I don't know, especially living there, knowing that this is happening. How did
I
you
remember one time I was sitting on the couch and, I had, how at the dollar store or wherever, or, I guess whatever store it was at the time, they have those animals that are actually, like motion detectors, and you're supposed to put them outside. And, if somebody walks up to your house, you would hear like chirping or cheeping or, whatever monkey sounds. I don't know what it is. So I had one of those, and I for whatever reason, I just felt safer for some reason, because this was like a few weeks after. And I kind of had it beside me
Okay.
on the coffee table, right? And I remember this one night I was sitting there watching TV and the girls were in bed. Well, they were in my room in bed. I guess that's about as close as to being in bed as they were going to get at that time.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because it was one of those houses where you could walk around the whole, like it was in a circle, right? So you'd go, living room, hallway, kitchen, dining room, like in a circle. And I remember sitting there and I'd hear cheek, cheek, cheek. And then all of a sudden it would be like flicker of lights, flicker of lights, flicker of lights, flicker of lights, cheep, 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 flicker of lights, flicker of, and I was like, I can't. And I think that right there was one of the moments that I made that decision. Okay, like whatever this is, there's something obviously here that is creating the lights like this, something is happening that is beyond. I remember walking into the living room and we had my youngest, being so young and, not really understanding everything and all of that. She was like Velcro, so I'd walk into one room and she's coming with me, and even in the bathroom, she's there with me. And I remember I was getting ready one day and, she's sort of sitting there like on the edge of the tub and playing or doing whatever she's doing. And we both heard this like rustling in the living room, but I kind of assumed it was the dog. Yeah. But then I heard the dog like, and I was like, oh, now what? Right. And we walked in, and at the time, this is when VCR tapes, VHS tapes were in existence. We walked into the living room and there was like this big stack of fucking VHS tapes stacked up. And I just kind of shut off my curling iron. I remember this so clearly. I put my daughter's clothes on. We just walked out the door. I was like, I can't. Wow. You get to a place where you're numbed, like you're dumbified. You don't know what to do. There's no point in bringing it up or talking to anyone because everybody is like making fun of you or not believing you, or that apparently I had 8 hands to be able to do this. But, you just kind of go, okay. The one thing I was grateful for was the fact that my daughter at the time was still young enough, like in kindergarten, but also like she doesn't remember a lot of that now. She has vague memories, right?
Yes.
But she was also like, yes, she was in kindergarten, I believe at the time. But it wasn't like by the time we moved, she didn't really remember. So she wasn't really, spreading it at school or talking about it and making it worse. Like it was more, which can happen, right? But back to the dolls. Let's talk about the dolls. We don't need to talk about me.
No, I think that's fascinating. I mean, I can't imagine living in that kind of environment for too long. So it's a good thing that you got out when you did, because that would freak out.
It was within about 6 months. Like I would say that you know what I mean? Like, even though I had that aha moment, when that bird was chirping and stuff like that, and that was probably a couple weeks or a month afterwards, you still have to, there's a lot of packing and, there's you coming to the terms of, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You've still got to, assimilate it into your head at the fact that this is what you're going to do, and how you're going to handle it. And again, I was working 3 jobs, so I didn't have a whole lot of time on my hands. I was constantly doing something, or, the days that I was with the girls, right? So it was one or the other, like I was, but you didn't get a lot of time to be able to do stuff. But it was, but then you think, so one of the stories of haunted dolls is probably the most famous haunted doll, which is Annabelle.
Yeah, that's right. There she
and is. Here we have in the middle we have Lorraine Warren with the real Annabelle. We have Annabelle in her cage, in her glass. Yep. And then we've got the movie version of the doll. And we've had Chris McKinnell on here. He is Lorraine Warren's grandson, and he has said very, very clearly, the movies are fake. They are not real. There are elements of cases, within the stories, but they are not the true story. So, don't watch Annabelle, or don't watch some of these shows of The Conjuring, because The Conjuring, it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful scare.
Yes. Yes.
It is a wonderful, wonderful scare. But it's only elements of the stories that are in there, right?
Yep.
Especially the first Conjuring, I think, is more true to form than I think a lot of the other stories. I think that was one of the more true to form stories that came out. But and the element with Annabelle was that, and this has been told by Ed and Lorraine, several times, was that originally she, I'm just going to put her up there again, that apparently a little girl's spirit by the name, or a demon spirit, actually got into Annabelle. And, as we know, children or children's spirits tend to make us be a little bit more open with our energy. And we don't question it a lot. We don't sit there and go, oh, are you really a little kid? We just take it for granted, a lot of times. And this is where people get into a lot of trouble, into a lot of hauntings, because they'll be like, oh, I've got a little kid in the house. Oh, you can stay, blah, 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 and it's not a little kid, right? It's something that is now. I'm sure that I'm going to have people argue with me. I don't give a shit. You know me. I'm going to say what I have to say. I've never run into a child's ghost, a child's spirit.
Yeah.
Not a true one, not a true spirit of a child. And all of the readings that I've done, I did communicate with a teenager. But it wasn't, but this was very specific to the client. It wasn't just some random person, you know what I mean, or anything like that. But any of the random, I should maybe specify that. Any of the random hauntings that I have encountered, or gone to do a reading on, or as an investigator, if they were random, like we've got something in our house, come and check it out. They have never, if they've presented as a child, they've never actually been a child.
Yep, absolutely. Same. 100%.
I've done readings where people have had children that have passed, but not like the, where the spirit is a child that is haunting the home. I've never encountered that. Not once.
Yeah, I have encountered some that, yes, you're right, portray as a child, but that's only because they feel more comfortable portraying that way, because they know that if they don't, then they really will scare the daylights out of the people that live there.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Which I could see. Yeah, definitely, for which I could understand, right? But and unless you actually know what it is. And that's what happened with Annabelle, right? Is that these people took the doll in, and kind of all hell broke loose.
And I mean, Annabelle, the actual Annabelle, is sort of a Raggedy Ann doll, unobtrusive, right? Doesn't look scary, looks very normal, looks friendly, the kind of a doll that you would be drawn to. And
definitely would want to hug her. Yeah.
Yeah, like you would want to hug her for sure. And then, of course, if you look at the other Annabelle, the one from the movies, I mean, my friends and I, when that movie came out, the first thing out of our mouths was, would you buy a doll that looked like that? I mean, seriously, would you?
I know. Like the fact that they even used that doll for the movie just kills me. Hey, it's like,
why would you even choose a doll like that? Now, the real Annabelle, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing that people don't understand too, about haunted dolls, is that, when you talk about a doll, you talk about a companion. And usually, a little girl or a little boy will have a doll, right? And that doll is a companion. Exactly. That, you hug and you sleep with and you take it with you everywhere. But also it's something that you tell things to, right?
Yes.
You tell your doll your darkest secrets. You tell your doll how you feel. Mommy did this and I don't like mommy today. Right? I mean, you tell your doll everything. And if you are one of those sort of reckless, low energy spirits that really want to screw with somebody, then you're going to say to yourself, well, hey, listen, if I
Yeah.
embody that wonderful little unobtrusive object called a doll that this person tells all their secrets to, then I can have more power, and I can have more power over not only her or him, but the entire
The
family.
rest of the family too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because now you're in the home. Once you get into the home, you're in that home, right? However it is that they are. They yeah, it's
Yeah. And that's like Robert the Haunted Doll. And that's basically apparently what happened is that Robert was given to a little boy and became this little boy's companion. So little boy told him everything. Little boy dragged him everywhere, told him his deepest, darkest secrets. And of course, the people in the house would then claim that Robert would talk to, right? Would talk to Jean, who was the little boy, would talk to Jean, and they could hear two voices in the room where only Jean was playing ostensibly by himself. And again, it's a companion. It's somebody who shares their life with this doll. And yeah, and when Jean sort of grew up, moved away, they put the doll in the attic, and people who moved into the house would hear footsteps and voices and all of that stuff in the attic. And of course, now Robert the doll, lives like Annabelle, exactly, lives kind of like Annabelle in a case. But this one is a little more complicated because in the museum where Robert the doll is, if people walk into the museum and just take his picture without permission, or if they make fun of him, they have kind of crappy things happen to them. And there's a
yeah.
whole wall of notes from people apologizing to Robert the Haunted Doll in order to, get rid of the attachment, which I find absolutely fascinating. Fascinating. Like, how creepy.
Well, the thing is, I'll tell you something. So, when I was making the thumbnail,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have people laugh at me for this, but that's okay. When I was making the thumbnail for this show, I actually purposely did not use any of the dolls, like the actual dolls. Like I didn't use Annabelle or Robert or anything like that. So I used the fake Annabelle. You know what I mean?
Yes, I noticed
But
that.
for me, I think because of what happened, I have a little bit more, maybe I have a respect for that. You know what I mean? I have more of a, okay.
Yes. Well, I think that that's what it's all about. I mean, even as an investigator, you know
Mhm.
yourself, I mean, we have to go into a situation with respect, and any object that is haunted or, possessed or anything like that, you have to treat it with the utmost respect, because you don't know what it is. You don't know what powers it can unleash on you or your relatives, your family, your pets. You have no idea. So that's what we know as investigators. We know that we have to be respectful at all times. And I think that's important. I mean, too many people are not respectful of anyone, regardless of whether they're haunted or not, right? So we have to learn that, I think.
There's a lot of people that unfortunately just, they make fun of it. And that's, what, that's fine. You do you. But dolls are freaky. Yes,
They are.
they are. Oh, journey through the. Hello, Michael. How are you? Good to see you. If you guys don't follow him already, please do so. Journey Through the Past TV. He's on YouTube. Definitely go to his channel, watch him. Amazing, amazing shows, and we'll have to have Michael back on our show again too.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, it is a matter of just being respectful, right? And it's unfortunate that there are a lot of people that do make fun of it, but then what happens, you know, if they ever find themselves in that same position, that's where there's, you know, an issue, right? Because it's really hard to, not finding a paranormal team to help you out is not difficult. However, a paranormal team isn't going to waste their time for somebody who's making light of a situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do. There's an interesting comment about dolls having stuff, just like spirits in trees and buildings and so on. Now, one of my things that I do, one of the businesses that I have, is that I repair and
Mhm.
restore stuffed animals. So things that are sort of really, really, really old, and their stuffing is all yucky. So I will take them apart and I'll take the stuffing out. I'll restuff. If they smell funny or whatever, I get rid of whatever smells I can, and I remake these things. And it's very interesting because I have come across a couple of stuffed animals, and I don't do dolls. I do stuffed animals, but I have come across a couple that I believe have thanked me for helping them. I
Aw.
know, I think that's a little
Yeah.
strange. You might think I'm crazy, but
No.
they really do. They're in really bad shape. They've been loved for so long and then possibly abandoned because, you know, the person grew out of them, put them in a box, and then found them 40 years later and thought, "Oh my gosh, you know, I have a grandchild. I want to
Yeah.
make them good again." And then they bring them to me and I feel it. I absolutely feel it. I mean, I'm a little bit intuitive anyway, but they really do feel grateful for having been sort of restuffed and revamped. And it's the most incredible experience, I think, that I can ever.
It's kind of like going to the spa,
Kind of, yeah. It is.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But I
You
do
know?
think that they do have stuff. I think that they
Yeah.
do have some, you know, internal spirit, whatever that happens to be. Maybe it's just a part of the person that owned them. And that could very well be as well. But I mean, you know, I believe it. I think absolutely. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So I
no.
like this too. Uh, Michael says, I've only experienced haunted furniture so far. Sparky says, I have restored furniture before and had like odd stuff going on when it's done, like a breath of fresh air kind of thing. So it's the same. It's like an odd during, but peaceful after. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very strange. And I know that when I restore whatever I'm working on, I keep them on my little work table in the dining room, right? And
Mhm.
there is a different feeling in that room when I have an older object that I'm working on. And once I make them all spiffy and put that, you know, little red bow around their neck and send them away again, there's a different feeling. It's like it's back to normal in my workspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting.
So some of the resin that I use, I actually do memorials at times. So I'll have people's ashes in my house,
Yes.
and that, you know, I'm going to. It's not the same thing as having the stuffed animals. I'm thinking I would prefer the stuffed animals ashes or the stuffed animals being here. Um,
Yep.
but I get it. Like, you know that it's there. It's a feeling of, you just know, like, it's a knowing of.
It's a knowing. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? You just,
Yeah, I don't allow, I guess the best way to say it is, my house is very protected in a lot of aspects. So, you know, just even if I have somebody's ashes here, I don't need them joining me on the couch while I'm watching TV. I'm good. I'm good.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, I protect my space
Yeah.
before I bring anything
This
in.
is my home. It's not their home. I'm here to create something with their ashes. I'm not here to entertain them.
No, absolutely. And I have spoken with many people who work with vintage anything. So, vintage furniture, vintage
Mhm.
fabrics, vintage buttons, all of that. And you know what? They do hold a lot of energy. And
Yeah,
you know,
they
if you
do.
yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a really difficult thing to work with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think this is what you're asking, if I can see. Um, Sometimes you work with stuff and it's like an object, and when you get a feeling or stuff happening, I talk to the item like a crazy person. Do you do that with your work?
All the time. I talk to them all the time. And as a matter of fact, I create a lot of stuffed animals myself. I'm working on one right now. And it's almost like they tell me how I need to proceed. So,
Yeah.
they tell me how I need to dress them. They tell me, what kind of eyes they need to have, or whether they need to have hair, or it's the strangest thing. But I do believe that we're all guided. And if we work on things that are old, they do possess some form of energy. And we have to be very guarded, first of all. So protect your
Mhm.
space. But at the same time, you have to be aware that there is some form of communication energetically that's taken place when you're working on them. So, yeah, absolutely.
So when I do my organites, like I'll make the pyramid organites. I like this. I'll show you this one. This is just an example. You know what I mean? But, this one, I don't know what it has in it. Oh, hematite and white crystal, white quartz, that sort of thing. But when I'm working on them, what I do is I'm playing like a binaural beat. Thank you, Sparky. And I'll be playing like a lot of binaural beats. I'll be playing what I feel. Sometimes it's a matter of what I feel the person may need that's going into it.
Yes.
When it's a memorial one, I let myself be guided. This is the only time that spirit is allowed to really talk to me, is through the creation of its organite.
Right.
And so, unless the people who are having it created, they might have their own idea of what they want, and that's fine. I take that. But a lot of times people will just say, look, create what you're picking up. And, so that's exactly what I'll do, is I'll just go in and I let the person's spirit guide that organite that's being created. Or if it's not with human ashes, then I'm just basically playing like the binaural beats, and it's just a matter of kind of tapping into the energy and feeling like, okay, this person might be coming from a poverty mentality.
Right.
So let's create some abundance. Maybe they're coming from a place where they feel like they haven't found love. Let's tap into a little bit of not only external love, but mostly self-love energy. Right? Because that's how we create love, is the self-love.
Yes.
And, and we go that way. And it was interesting because I had sold one to a good friend of mine. And she said to me, she goes, it was funny. I brought it home, and she goes, I wanted to put it beside my bed. And she goes, but I could feel this thing did not want to be there. It was like, she goes, it was just an energy. It was like just giving off this high, because when you pick them up, they're very high vibrational. They're very high vibration, because I put so much energy into them during the creation. And so she says, okay, it wouldn't stay. It didn't want to be beside my bed. So she says, I took it and I brought it into the kitchen, and it was like, nope, don't want to be there. And then she was like, okay, I don't know what to do with you. And then she just had this feeling, I'm going to put it on this particular shelf. Ah. And so she put it there. And then she says she woke up, in the middle of the night, had to go to the bathroom. She woke up and the moonlight was coming in the window directly onto that organite. Yeah. And she goes, it is so charged now that I can now put it beside my bed. And I think that's what it wanted, was it needed to be like, it needed to have that charge. And it's also an ownership too, right? Because it's been in my home, even though I created it, it's not mine, it's yours. You have to own it. Take ownership of it. And I feel like that's, what it was wanting, of her to do. It was interesting. Really interesting.
So interesting. I love that.
I love that. He says, so I have done work on old stuff and made urns. I find my music choice changes with every piece. Exactly. My music list is nuts. And I find that working with the crystals, that is 100% it. So each time I'm working on something, it's going to be wherever I'm kind of being drawn. And it's interesting because things will pop up on my playlist, like, or on my YouTube list. Because so what I do is when I'm done the creation of it, I leave my iPad in the room because I'll take my phone with me, right? But while it's curing, and so while it's curing, that's the strongest time to get the energy put into the piece itself. And there's about 8 layers for each orgonite, so it's you're looking at about a week, perhaps. Like, it takes me about a week per orgonite to create, because each layer takes about 8 hours. And so it really gets a good charge in it. And I'll just leave my iPad in there and play it all night or whatever until I go towards the next layer. And so, but sometimes things will just pop up on my playlist and I'll be like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to play this today. Okay. We'll go with that.
I like that. Yeah, I agree. You can pick up on all kinds of different energies, and I've been drawn to listen to things that I ordinarily wouldn't listen to. And that does happen when I'm working on older pieces for that. Oh, absolutely. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And it is. It's right.
Yeah.
So I love that.
So cool.
I just wanted to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being here. And I do believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that Trevor's going to be back next week. We'll see how that, I'm pretty sure he's going to be here. Looking forward to having him. And we will see you guys again next week. You guys take care. Have an amazing week.
Bye.
Bye.